This is me. This is my beloved wife, Sylvia. This is Sylvia's idea of sailing. This is my dream of sailing and my hope of circumnavigating the globe as a retirement project in 2029. This is Sylvia's reaction to that idea.
What? You got a quest?
I am on a 6-year quest to convince Sylvia that a circumnavigation is a wonderful adventure, but the clock is ticking, so join me as I search for the perfect yacht that Sylvia will love, and get all your ladies to subscribe and cheer Sylvia on in the comments.
Welcome back to Naval Gazing at Camp David. This week we're heading to the offices of Passport Yachts for a tour of a sailing yacht that, to me, is the epitome of interior liveaboard yacht style and elegance, the Passport 545 Center Cockpit. Today, we will 1. Review its specifications, pricing, and layout against 3 similar new vessels. 2. Do a full tour asking what would Sylvia say. 3. Naval gaze at an innovation and or adjustment that just might make life aboard a little easier. 4. Have a look at the market at 3 to 5-year-old pre-owned comparables. And 5. Give it a Dave score and compare the results with all our previously reviewed yachts. As always, all this fun will be sandwiched between a pairing of wine and a work of art from the same region as the guest yacht in an effort to capture the culture and people who gave birth to these wonderful vessels. Waves, wine, art, and ideas. What a civilized way to spend 30 minutes. So let's get going. From high above Vancouver, we head east across the continent and the Atlantic to the western shores of France and the yards of Fountain Peugeot and last week's yacht, the innovative Aura 51. From here, we head to the far east in the yards of Xiamen Hansheng Yacht Building Company in Fujian, China, where the Passport 545 is manufactured. Now we continue east to the shores of the United States in the home of Passport Yachts in picturesque Annapolis, Maryland. Since there are very few great reds to choose from on the East Coast, we head to the West Coast and the vineyards of Black Stallion Estate Winery in Napa Valley for our wine pairing this week, Black Stallion Premier Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon 2020. 12 years after arriving in America in 1924, Gaspar Indelicato planted a vineyard in Manteca, California. With it, he planted the foundation of his eventual success in the California wine trade. Since that first vineyard flourished, Gaspar's children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren have honored his legacy through dedication to his steadfast values of family, hard work, and integrity. Occupying a privileged position at the southern foot of the trail, the winery grounds eventually became the site of the Silverado Western Center, a major equestrian center that opened in September 1963. The original riding area now houses prized wines instead of prize-winning horses. However, Black Stallion Estate Winery carries its heritage forward. The estate's legacy honors the world-class terroir of Napa Valley, the pioneering spirit of the Silverado Trail, and the Indelicato family's warm hospitality and generations of wine expertise. Once crushed at the winery, microlots may be fermented in small tanks made of wood, concrete, or steel. These choices of aging vessels give the winemaker exceptional flexibility to match a batch of grapes with the material best suited to bring out its greatness, key in a region as diverse as Napa Valley. After fermentation, wine is drained using gravity, not pumps, and aged in the finest oak barrels. The gentle handling of the wine prevents the extraction of harsh components that could impart bitterness. There's no set recipe for a Black Stallion blend, just the finely honed palates of the winemaker and his team. It's not uncommon for them to try dozens of trial blends before deciding on a final cuvee. The goal is always the same: to create a seamless, harmonious wine that captures the varietal's best expression of that vintage in Napa Valley. Wine Enthusiast gives Black Stallion Premier Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon 2020 92 points and describes this wine as a handsome, well-structured wine that deftly balances refined black fruits and subtle oak spices against fine-grained tannins. It has an elegance and a polish that sets it apart, from the minty perfume to intricate fruits and a long finish, best from 2026 to 2036. James Suckling gave it 91 points and says it shows notes of crushed blackberries and black raspberries with baking spices, cedar and bark, medium to full-bodied with a chocolatey mouthfeel and firm, chalky tannins, a ripe and mellow finish.
Oh, you're going to like that. Cheers. Let's go have a look at that boat.
Having a look at the outside of this vessel, I mean, if you don't fall in love with it immediately, I don't know what you could do. This black hull with those beautiful orange boot stripes and cove stripes on the first one we saw there, as well as that classic hull, but her beauty is really on the inside, just like a wonderful woman. I mean, the interior of this vessel is nothing but spectacular. Love the deck saloon windows, and of course, look at your owner's suite. How could you not be in love with that? I don't normally show the interiors in this section of the video, but that is this boat's charm. You know, the exterior is a classic hull shape, a classic hull design, and yet it's not dated in any way. The interior is nothing short of utter artwork. Look at this silhouette. I mean, you couldn't help but be proud if you were driving away from this in your dinghy and looked back. I mean, what an absolutely beautiful vessel, especially given, you know, its relatively dated hull mold. But she is aged absolutely beautifully. You know, very much the genre of an oyster in its shape and look and feel. You can see, of course, that that beam does not translate all the way aft as the modern hull shapes. And speaking of modern hull shapes, let's look at our numbers here. This week, our new comparables are the Jeanneau Yacht 55, the Dufour 530, the Moody 54DS, the Halberg Rassi 57, and the Passport 545. And I know these are radically different monohulls, but it's always good to see the full spectrum here. As far as hull shape or silhouette, absolutely gorgeous, all of them. I mean, there's some debate on the Moody 54DS, but, you know, overall, not too bad. I get the windage thing and all of that good stuff, but there are benefits there. Upwind sail area, it's the Halberg Rassi at 163, well in the lead. The Passport 545 is the lowest upwind sail area at 105. Heading onto the deck top, you can see the Jeanneau Yacht 55 immediately. That beam just translates all the way aft. They've put the helms further forward, almost midships or a third the way forward, and they've taken that aft deck area and turned it into something equivalent of a catamaran. Massive space back there. They also have a very innovative hard spray hood, as well as the hard top. So the spray hood covers a very interesting area that has sort of a dinette and an upper nav station, fully sheltered, and then you come back to the helm station, which is under the hard top. But of course, you've got the center section that's canvas and can slide back and forth, so you can get sun into your cockpit and see your sail plan. Or when it's closed, you just lean out the side and look up, and you can see your sail plan very nicely. Overall, very innovative, and you know, on the upper deck, I quite like it. Dufour 530, very traditional, a split table like that. Overall, you know, nothing surprising there. Again, the hull shape not quite as dramatic as the Jeanneau, but close to it. The Moody 54 deck saloon, very innovative. So you've got your very sheltered cockpit area with the hard top and the center canvas section, but the hard top does not extend over the helm stations. You've got then same level access into the saloon. In this one, I've selected the galley down, so you have settee aft starboard and dinette settee port forward, with the lower galley down starboard forward. You know, the huge window space, you feel very up and involved in everything outside on this upper level. It really has its benefits. The Halberg Rassi, very I was going to say very classic, but it's a modern classic. It really is a modern classic. I really do quite like its deck layout. You can see they've translated the beam well aft. Very, very nice vessel in the on the upper deck. And the Passport 545 is just classic. You can see the shape, tails off and narrows down in the aft there. You've got most of your beam in the center. The aft deck area, you got fairly open deck back there. You've got a single helm and quite a small but very well protected cockpit. Okay, heading downstairs into the cabins and the accommodations. As you know, Yacht 55 wildly unique in this, in that it has dedicated access from the cockpit into two VIP suites that are completely separate from the saloon for full privacy. Then you've got your companionway down into the saloon, which is, has not my favorite layout, which is a settee and dinette to the port, and then your galley along the starboard. But it's executed nicely. And then double doors up into a nice forward owner suite. I'm not a fan of forward owner suites, but this is executed nicely, has good beam to it, good space and room around it, and with those double doors really feels big. It's up to you whether you like the separate guest suites separated from the saloon. Not my favorite. I get what you're doing there. But it does make you feel a little smaller in the space inside. Dufour 530, traditional layout, forward owners done in the way that I'm not a big fan of, feels a little cramped, waist of the full beam aft into two guest suites, but there you go. The Moody 54DS, radically different. So we've already talked about the main deck, which is on the same level as the cockpit. Here we go downstairs into a very nice forward owner suite. In this case, they've dedicated a lot of space to it, and they can because it's on a lower level. It's very comfortable. And then you've got the galley down on the mid starboard side, and then on the port side you've got a VIP suite. It's interesting to note, I saw some original drawings from Bill Dixon here where that master, that VIP suite berth was actually turned around, so the head was faced aft, but at an angle, about the same angle then as the doorway. I thought that was it was very much like his approach to the Moody 64-66 in that VIP suite. And honestly, it's a shame they didn't go with that, because this particular berth is under a lowered ceiling, whereas if they turned it around at the angle, your head would have lots of headspace above, but nitpicky. Aft, with a separate access to it, is a twin cabin aft port. Very nicely set up, and of course you've got your lockers and stuff aft starboard. Halberg Rassi, classic oyster layout, my absolute favorite. Mono hulls with full beam aft owners, nice VIP V berth forward, and starboard forward Pullman to the side. The Passport 545, again, very traditional that way, full beam aft, but with the nature of the hull shape, of course, it's a little more constrained there. Although when you get into the interior here, you will be completely surprised at how big it feels, and of course how warm it feels with incredible classic cabinetry in this thing. And of course you've got your forward V berth and a Pullman to the side here. Okay, let's get into some of the numbers here. As we look along the top line, it's the Dufour, which is the smallest, which is the most economical at €429,000. Next is your Jeanneau Yacht 55 at about $700. Next is going to be your Moody at about $950. The Passport is at about 1.1, which, given what you're getting, once you get into it, it seems to be a very good deal. Halberg Rassi, where it should be, at about 145. As we go along, length overall, of course, it's the Halberg Rassi. It's a 57. It's actually 60. And then within the comparables, it would be the Moody at 56.3. Your beam is again the Halberg Grassy. Your beam is the Moody overall at 17. Your length of the water line is the Halberg Grassy at 55. When we look at displacement, it is the Passport, which is the lightest, at 38,500 pounds or 17.5 tons. And then heading down at upwind sail area, we already chatted about that. You've got the Halberg Grassy at 163 square meters or 1755 square feet. Going into engines, it's the Moody at 148 horsepower. Other than the Halberg Grassy, which is a bigger boat at 175 horsepower. Capacities, Halberg Grassy, 277 gallons fuel, 271 gallons water, which is sort of in the lead by a fair bit. Although, actually, I shouldn't say that. Your Passport has 250 gallons fuel, 250 gallons water. So right on the heels of the Halberg Grassy in a smaller vessel. So very much a vessel meant for long passages. As we get into the numbers that I wish you would talk to all your brokers to start getting displayed prominently, that especially for liveaboards, interior square footage, just like in your house, exterior square footage, just like at your house as far as the lot it's on. Interior enclosed storage in cubic meters and feet, exterior locker in cubic meters and feet, very important for all of us. Total fridge capacity, total freezer capacity. I don't know why these aren't numbers that are available to everyone. To my surprise, Halberg Grassy did highlight their exterior locker storage, and it's a whopping 10 cubic meters or 350 cubic feet. On the fridge freezer space, all I could find was the Moody. They've got 70 liters and 70 liters, a combined 140 liters of fridge freezer space. Heading into the more technical details of the hull construction, again, it stuns me at how difficult, especially with monohulls, it is to find out the details of the hull construction, the resins, the fibers, how it's laid up. But digging around, it is Passport Yachts by a long shot. They have a pure vinyl ester resin on stitched biaxial fiberglass reinforced with Kevlar. It's a heck of a hull. Top grade materials. Everybody else is sort of a polyester, maybe a little polyester vinyl ester. However, Jeanneau also throws in some balsa, end-grain balsa. Of course, Passport vinyl ester with fiberglass and Kevlar on a foam core. Battery bank size, it was sort of Passport and Halberg Grassy in a tie there. And then going into the indicators on performance, a sail area to displacement or indicator of power, it is Passport in the lead at 19.52, followed by Jeanneau at 1909. Next is sail area to next is displacement to hull length, or an indicator of heaviness. Here, the lightest number wins, or the lowest number wins. It is the Jeanneau at 124.97, followed by the Dufour at 147, followed by the Halberg Grassy at 165, the Passport at 182, and the Moody at 183. Next is comfort ratio. Here it's the Halberg Grassy in the lead at 39, followed by the Moody at 36, the Passport at 33, the Dufour at 29, and the Jeanneau at 28. The CSF, or capsizing screening formula, the best one here is the Halberg Grassy at 171. There's a tie for second place between Moody and Passport at 1.8. Then it's the Jeanneau at 1.9 and the Dufour at 1.93. And finally, hull speed, it's the Halberg Grassy in the lead because, of course, it's the longest hull at 9.97 knots. If you're enjoying the content, please take a moment to hit the subscribe button and then share the channel with a couple of friends and hit the like button. It's free and really helps the channel. You can also join our crew on Patreon, where you can enjoy ad-free viewing as well as downloads of the Excel specifications and PowerPoint layout comparisons while helping the channel for a few bucks a month. You can find a link to the Naval Gazing Camp David Patreon channel in the description below, where you can also click to receive our free ebook and information on some very cool virtual sailing training. And speaking of cool, my friends at CatamaranShow.com have developed an amazing website and database of every catamaran available and scheduled to launch that allows you to do a selectable, in-depth comparison of 3 cats at a time. They are also working on an incredible virtual tour and on-the-fly configurator that provides the option of fully immersive virtual reality with the appropriate 3D goggles. This is an incredible resource for anyone considering a catamaran purchase. Have a look by clicking the link in the description below. Okay, hopping on board. What would Sylvia say? Well, I'd have no problem getting Sylvia on board this one. Just the sheer romance and beauty of this hull in that fabulous black with those beautiful orange boot and cove stripes and that beautiful black painted boom and mast. Wow, this vessel looked gorgeous. Now, you accent that with teak bright work on the rail and the cabin sides, incredible amounts of high gloss chrome surrounding every vent and every safety rail. I mean, this is an absolutely gorgeous vessel as far as a classic hull form goes. I mean, there's nothing you don't love about this vessel, and you could see it was a very popular one at the show here. You've got a very traditional cockpit area with a single helm, and then aft you have a fairly spacious aft deck. I'd love to see some plexi teak on there to highlight it a bit. And the bump up then to give room for your aft full beam owner's suite. Very nice little swim platform back here, easy access on and off with the built-in ladder and the steps off the main deck. On this one you have an optioned out arch with some much needed solar and area for your satellite communications. But wow, she really is a vessel that gives you the warm and fuzzies when you start looking at her. So we'll hop on board here. This young lady who is actually helping us is an owner. She and her husband live on a 545 in the area, and she had nothing but wonderful things to say about this vessel. So again, there's your cockpit. It's modest in size. I mean, that is what I do love about the Genots and the modern hull forms, where they have those wide open, beautiful cockpits and lots of seating. This, you know, you've got a single helm, easy access in through this step up and in. You don't have all your lines running back to the helm. Again, this is a very classic format. You do have electric winches up there with the switches, but you're going to have to squeeze past your guests to get to them. You have your main winches back here, again, all electric. Now let's do a little naval gazing. A Magneto Hydrodynamic Thruster. Bit of a mouthful, but also a remarkable, silent, and reliable way to create underwater thrust. Propellers and engines are great at producing thrust, but they're also great at producing noise that can have damaging impact on the marine life. They also have all sorts of moving parts that need constant maintenance. MHD thrusters, on the other hand, have the potential to be totally silent and incredibly reliable because they don't have any moving parts. In fact, the only thing that moves is the water. This type of drive capitalizes on a rivalry between magnetism and electricity in order to create thrust. The concept was popularized by Hollywood with the Caterpillar drive in The Hunt for Red October.
When the world trembled at the sound of our rockets, well, he will tremble again at the sound of our silence.
And then put into practice by the Japanese concept vessel, the Yamato, back in the 90s. In their simplest form, they use 2 electrodes and a magnet. When the electrodes are placed in salt water with one attached to the positive and the other to the negative, and a sufficient voltage is applied between them, the water undergoes electrolysis. But that's about it. However, when a properly oriented magnet is placed between the electrodes, that all changes. This time, when sufficient voltage is applied, something incredible happens. The water begins to move in one direction, and that flow of water can be very noticeable. Why this happens is beautifully simple. With the water electrified, a horizontal electric field is present between the electrodes. On the other hand, the magnetic's magnetic field is oriented vertically. When a magnetic field interacts with an electric field that is oriented perpendicular to the electric charge, carriers experience a force in the z direction that is called the Lorentz force. And in this case, the charge carrier is the electrified water. This is also how railguns work. So movement of water with no moving parts and virtually no noise signature is possible. In the home-built experimental unit shown, the maximum operating voltage of 25 volts and 9 amps produces 75 grams of thrust, or 3 watts per gram. For a wildly approximate comparison, a conventional 30 kilowatt motor and propeller that we see in many electric drive catamarans creates 520 kilograms of thrust. At 3 watts per gram from the MHD drive, we would need 1,560 kilowatts of power, so we have a way to go in the development. Back on board and in the cockpit here, you can see the single helm station. You've got a nice control panel there, very comfortable seat. Without the clears, you'd have easy access out onto the aft deck. You could throw a deck chair back there or a bean bag and be very comfortable. Easy access out onto the side decks from the cockpit. And, reasonable width, very nice high bulwark on the side there, so you're not likely to slip over. And you feel very safe, although it's quite narrow. Heading into the aft deck area here, look at all the beautiful teak seats, the gin and tonic seats, the beautiful bright chrome rail work, beautiful bright work on the rail around the hull there, and nice steps onto that swim platform. This aftermarket arch is a very nice thing, very practical for your solar array there, as well as your SATCOM. And then, of course, all your vents there, very traditional in format. You've got, as again, you can see, you don't have all of your lines coming to the aft. You are going to have to disturb your guests, and it is quite a modest cockpit. It's not like the modern formats, but it is highly safe. Look at that beautiful real glass windscreen there. And then, of course, you've got your spray hood attached to it, giving you very nice, secure protection in heavy weather in the cockpit area. Moving forward, again, everything looks so beautiful. All of your hatches have bright chrome frames to them. You've got a nice area on top your cabin there where you could throw some sun loungers, some sun pads up there. Forward, everything is so bright and elegant and shiny and sparkly. So Sylvia would love this, because Sylvia loves sparkles, and this thing sparkles everywhere, from the windlass to your chain plates to, everything here is spectacular. And look up forward, you even have that I'm the king of the world seat for watching dolphins in beautiful teak at the very bow there. Moving down this side deck, again, everything is so elegant here. The shape of the cabin top, very inviting. There's some space up there for additional solar too that you could put. And again, side decks, not wildly generous, but clear and easy to walk down. Here we are at the helm itself, again, single center helm. And the cockpit, not that huge. Heading down the companionway, this is very different from the modern yachts in that I literally had to turn around to head down. But look at the steps. Look at the workmanship on each and every step. Now, look into this galley. Holy mackerel. Every cupboard door is beautifully ventilated for air circulation. The detail in the hull wall that you see past the cabinetry is that beautiful slat wood, the real teak and holly soul of the cabin. Every aspect of this, every fiddle, the rounded corners on every single corner, the rounded tops to the doors. Here's Here's the head here for the VIP suite, and of course it's a shared to the suite and then out into the hallway for the pilot berth as well. Very nicely done, very generous dry head shower there with an opening port in the shower as well as an opening hatch on the ceiling of the head compartment. Look at the panels in the doors themselves. Look at the cabinetry around that little sink in the berth, and the berth itself. Every little detail. I mean, everywhere your eye looks, there's a bit of candy for it to absorb. Just so elegant. The bookshelves up there at the head of the bed. And again, everywhere you look, opening ports. So at the tail end of the bed there, in the ceiling, there's a port in the ceiling and then ports on the side walls. We're showing off the mast there. And the hardware on every door feels extremely solid. The countertops, absolutely gorgeous. And again, look at these cabinet doors. And here's something interesting. Each cabinet door can pop off easily. Now, I'm not really sure what that's all about, but it is an interesting feature. So it's made to pop off and then pop back on. I'm not sure what the actual application is there. I'm sure somebody must have some reason for it. If you know what it is, throw a comment for me, will you? And again, this whole saloon area here, what a comfortable space. It didn't feel, there's a lot of people in this boat, and it really didn't feel overcrowded. You got a beautiful nav station there, nav table, and now we head back into the master suite head. Again, look at all of the opening hatches up in the side sections of the raised cabin top that you can see up there, plus hatches in the roof or the ceiling itself. So you've got cross and vertical ventilation throughout this vessel. As well, we're showing off access to the engine and mechanical spaces here, both in that hatch you saw him open previously, as well as this one that comes in through the shower. Now look at his feet there. That beautiful teak grid that isn't just a bare teak. It is a beautifully finished teak grid. In here, lots of room to access your electrical, your generator, and the engine itself. Everything very nicely laid out, of course, as you would expect in a boat of this caliber. But remember, you're not paying an excessive amount of premium here. This is $1.1 million base price for this. And, look at what you're getting. Look at the elegance. The bed can have a footboard. You could spin this around and have your head at this end if you wanted to. I think it's really nicely done the way it is. I could easily enter and exit this bed without disturbing Sylvia, and the footboard would just give me that extra sense of security. Again, ventilation very strong in the side walls of the elevated ceiling, as well as in the ceiling itself. The galley here, with beautiful Corian countertops, masses of counter space, masses of ventilation with those opening ports there, great freezer fridge space. You've got a hob here, a gas hob. I would prefer, of course, an electric one, but I'm sure you can spec that out. And this pseudo island here in the center is really quite a nice spot, especially for serving guests in the dinette area. Tons of storage space all around here. And then look at how comfortable and inviting this salon is. Okay, what are we going to look to for pre-owned comparables to this? Our first boat is the Nature Swan 54. This is a 2019, so a 4-year-old boat. They're looking for 1.7-ish. Our brand new Passport is 1.777,500. That's base plus 50%. So sail away for equivalent. So, about $100,000 more for the brand new boat. The Nader Swan is a beautiful boat. This might be a bit of a hard one for me. I'd probably give it a tie on this one. Next up is a 2020 Blue Water 56. A very comparable boat to the Passport in its finish quality and features. They're looking, this is a 3-year-old boat. They're looking for 1.5 mil. We're looking for 1.8. I would probably do the Passport as I could fit it out exactly the way I wanted it. Lastly, we're looking at a 2022 ML50, which is 54 feet. And this is a dream boat for me. You've got everything is push button. The helm position has huge benefits, as well as a bit of a drawback from the fun of sailing. But this boat's interior design is so elegant in a modern sense versus the classical elegance of the Passport. They're looking for 1.250. This is one where I'd save the 500 or 600, and I'd do the ML50 for a 1-year-old ML50. Assuming it's got the walnut interior, this is a hard to beat boat. Okay, moving into monohull Puritan Purgatory, looking at equivalent catamarans. We're looking at something about 20% less in length to equate to the same livability space as a monohull. So we're looking in the range of 45, 46 feet. Our first one is a Nautitech, a 2018 Nautitech. So we're looking at a 5-year-old Nautitech. And Nautitech, as far as interiors of the production boats go, in my opinion, is the best. They do a beautiful job. They're asking $635,000 versus 1.8. I'm afraid I'd have to save my money and probably my marriage because it would stay flat and everything's happy, and go with the Nautitech on this one. Next up, we're looking at a very interesting boat, performance catamaran, a 2020 Shoning G-Force 1400C, 47 feet. This particular boat, Shonings can be built by any number of builders. This particular one is done beautifully with a very custom designed interior, and as a result, for $1 million or 950 grand, I would that's 635,000 USD. I would definitely do this Shoning. You have comfort, elegance, and incredible performance out of this vessel. So $635,000 versus 1.8. Yeah, it would be the cat. And last but not least is 1-year-old Fountain Peugeot Tana 47. This is they're asking 1.5-ish versus 1.8-ish. I really struggle with Fountain Peugeot. I love their layouts. I love some of their materials, but they leave an unfinished ceiling, in my opinion. And there's areas that just feel a little RV-ish. Having said that, this has a lot of space, a lot of comfort, a lot of features. And it would save me, $250,000 USD, and Sylvia would be happier. So I'd probably be the cat. So unfortunately, the cats take it all across the board here. Next up, the Dave score. How did she do? Well, let's have a look down the list. Oh boy, that green line appears pretty darn quick. So she's in the top third, I would say. She scores 77 out of 100, putting her in the neighborhood of a Rapido 53XS. She'd be in the neighborhood of a Wave 50, above a Max Cruise 48 SC. So she's in a reasonable space, all things considered. Elegance interior, 10 out of 10. I mean, it's just beautiful what they've done in the interior of this. Exterior is a 7 out of 10. Interior comfort, 9 out of 10. Exterior comfort, about a 6 out of 10. It's very old school. Quality is a 9 out of 10. Performance is 7 out of 10, maybe a 6. Lazy sailor, 6 out of 10. I mean, it's not really for the lazy sailor. You don't have your centralized winches and lines back to the helm. Condo, a 9 out of 10, which is saying something in a 45 or 54-foot vessel. Geek, 6 out of 10. There's nothing really to geek out other than it's classic. And value for money, it's a solid 8 out of 10. This week's Art of the Region is the Naval Battle of Epitome in 1323. This was painted by Francis Blackwell Mayer in 1841. So Francis was an American artist renowned for his contributions to the genre of historical and genre painting. Born in Baltimore, Maryland, Mayer developed a keen interest in art at an early age. His artistic journey was marked by a dedication to capturing not just the aesthetic qualities of his subjects, but also their historical and cultural significance. Mayer received his formal art education in Europe, where he studied under eminent artists of the time. This period was instrumental in shaping his style, which combined European influences with his own unique perspective. Mayer's works are characterized by a meticulous attention to detail, a vibrant use of color, and an ability to convey deep emotion and narrative undertones. His painting, Naval Battle of Epitome in 1323, is set against a turbulent sea and depicts the fierce naval battle that took place near Epitome, Cyprus in 1323. Mayer's use of color and light is masterful, creating a dramatic contrast between the dark, brooding ocean and the fiery explosions that mark the brutal combat. The composition is bustling with activity, ships maneuvering in close quarters, their sails billowing and torn by cannon fire. The sea itself seems to participate in the battle, with waves crashing against the ships and spraying foam into the air. Well, there you have it. One more week of waves, wine, art, and ideas. Do hope you've enjoyed this. I really have a soft spot for this vessel. Obviously, that interior, I'm a bit of a classic interior guy, although I do love the way ML has a modern interpretation of an interior. I'm not a fan of what seems to be the trend in catamarans these days, say for privilege. But this one really hit a soft spot for me, where you look around at that wonderful warm wood and those leathers and that beautiful teak and holly sole, and just the sheer detail and artistry that goes into the creation of an interior of that magnitude. Not to mention the boat, for a classic design, does have beautiful lines. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I did. Stay with us next week. We'll have another great boat for you to view. Cheers.